Let me begin with a statement that is a true statement, and I hope you all remember it. Muscle knows no age. In other words, whether you're 9 or 90, you can have a strong, fit, healthy body. It's not a bad idea to Google 100-year-old athletes and just have a look at what they're doing, because no one here is actually 100. My offsider, Amelia, who worked with me for 5 years, she's a naturopath. She got married. She had a little app on her phone, just a photo of 2 women. Both of them were 80. One of them was overweight, hunched over with a walking stick, and the other one, she had like a sports bra crop top on and then jogging pants on, and you could count her abdominal muscles. She was, both of them were 80. Muscle knows no age. So whether you're 8 or 80, you can have a strong, fit body. And I believe that it's very important for us to prepare for our latter years. How many people don't do that? And their latter years, unfortunately, are spent in misery. We need to be preparing for our latter years. And one of the probably most effective ways to do that is to keep the body strong, fit. Of course, giving it lots of water and nourishing food, and we've looked at that. But what is the best form of exercise? A lot of people say to me, I don't exercise because I just don't have time. So I'm going to show you a form of exercise today that only takes 15 minutes a day. Are you interested? Yes. Oh, I'm very interested. We used to do half hour a day. And one of the reasons I started exercising, yes, I didn't actually officially exercise because I thought I'm always busy, I'm in the garden, I'm running here, running there. And this happened to me probably about 15 years ago now. I went to New Zealand, and the lady I stayed with said to me, I do a 5K walk every morning, would you like to join me? It's through the forest. I said, I would love to. I don't have to get the kids up, I don't have to put the washing on the line, I don't have to get the breakfast going, because I still had a few teenagers at home then. Well, after about 3 kilometres, I could hardly keep up with her. And she was twice my size, 10 years younger. The next day when I woke up, I could hardly move. I could hardly move. She said, are you coming, Barbara? And I said, yeah, sure. How can I not go? I'm the health teacher. I'm in their town giving health lectures. Anyway, I definitely couldn't keep up with her this morning. And every time she turned around, she said, you going? Yeah, fine. Oh dear, did it hurt. It hurt very much. She had a friend with her. I just lagged way behind. I learnt my lesson. From that time on, I've exercised every day. That's when I realised being busy all day is not enough. I acknowledge if you work as a gardener and you're hoeing into garden beds and lifting, certainly there are some jobs where you are exercising a lot. If you're a personal trainer, you don't have to take a special time every day. But even massage therapists, they still need to do that daily exercise. So what is this form of exercise? My husband and I started to do a half-hour walk every day. So how excited was I when I found, well, there's one that only takes 15 minutes. And let me tell you one other benefit I received when I began to implement an exercise program. My feet were always cold. I was always sitting in our little ensuite with my feet in the warm water, warming them up. Always cold. I started exercising, and guess what? I don't have cold feet anymore. I don't sit on the little ensuite with my feet in hot water anymore. Mind you, I go to great lengths to make sure I'm warm, absolutely. I used to leave home. Now, we were in Melbourne at the time. That's right down the bottom of Australia in the state of Victoria. And most of the time when I walked, it was pitch black outside. Because when I came home, I thought, how am I going to do this? Got to get the kids up, got to put the wash on, got to start the breakfast. So the only way I could do it was get up a little bit earlier. So I started to walk at 5:30 and it was pitch black outside. But what I found was once you start walking, your eyes soon adjust because it's a hassle taking a torch. I'd leave home and it was cold and dark. I'd have a scarf on, I'd have a hat on, I'd have gloves on. And when I'm coming back, this is after half an hour, whoa, the scarf's off, the hat's off, the gloves are being taken off. And I'd come into the house going, whoa, it's hot in here. No one else was thinking that. I have a friend, his name's Dr. Jonathan Gibbs, and he did a PhD on the effect of exercise in the cell. And he told me this. He said, when you do that in the morning, a network of capillaries is opened that equals the distance around planet Earth. Well, I can hardly get my mind around that one. So where are these capillaries? They're in your extremities. They're in your fingertips, they're in your brain, they're in your eyes. So it increases eyesight, it increases hearing, it increases every single body function. Leviticus 17:11 states that the life of the flesh is in the blood. It moves blood. So yes, how excited was I when I found only 15 minutes. Well, let's have a look at this. It's called high intensity interval training, or often called HIIT training. And the first documented evidence of the HIIT training was probably before the war. Some German trainers were training their athletes in it. The war came, a lot was lost, and then the next time it was documented was a Japanese trainer called Tabata. Now, in many gyms, they still have the Tabata protocol. And he was a trainer for his girls in the Olympic Games, and they were doing figure skating. And he discovered that if they did the HIIT training, they had an edge. So what did he do? So the high intensity, he got his girls to do that for about 20 seconds. The recovery was probably 60 seconds. And the cycle, meaning it's done for a cycle of, would be about 6. So that's 6 cycles of 20 seconds high intensity, 60 seconds recovery. He found when it came time for the Olympic Games, they had an edge. They had an edge on the other athletes, and isn't that what it's all about? Everyone that goes to the Olympic Games is the best that their country has. And sometimes they win by split seconds. So finding something that gave his girls an edge was very important. I read about the HIIT training. Probably the first book I read about it was Dr. Doug McGuff's book, Body by Science. And he's a doctor. I think he's a heart doctor. And he found out about this. So what he did was he did 30 seconds high intensity, 90 seconds recovery for a cycle of 6. And what I have found in my reading that's probably a time that most people come at would be the very best. Most of the HIIT training experiments have been done on an exercise bike. So if someone's a little unsteady on their feet, their ankles, their knees, their hips not working well, the exercise bike, they're able to hold on, they can go as fast as they can, and then they do the recovery time. So what is the high intensity? It's running for your life. It's going for as hard and as fast as you can, whether that be swimming, whether that be running up hills. When I was in Mount Isa is near the top of Australia, right in the middle, and there's a lot of mining there. So they've got these hills that basically look like that. And I think it's all the piles of dirt that came out of the mine. So I was there doing, or giving some health lectures. So say this is me here. This is about how big I am. So I would walk up them, and by the time I got to there, I was experiencing high intensity. And that's not even running. That's just walking. That's almost climbing. It was that steep. And then I'd stop, and I'd have my recovery time. So what's recovery time? Well, the research shows that the best recovery time is when you're moving a bit. So what I would do is I'd do my stretches. I can't do much because I'm all wired up. but I would do my stretches. And because all my exercise is being done on my legs, I might do the 10 down and the 10 up and the 10 back. So the best recovery time is when you're doing it slowly. So Michael and I, we run up the hills because we're in the mountains, so there are hills and dips, and we run up the hill and then we walk down the hill. And then by the time we've walked down the hill, it's easily 90 seconds, maybe a bit more. We know we're ready to go again because our breathing. Your breathing and your heart's settled down. When you think you can go for it again, then you're ready for your next high intensity. And so what I would do on the hills, then I would do another. So I would get 2 high intensities up here. I'd walk along for a little while and then go down, and then I'd find another one. So when I'm presenting at Mount Isa, I say to the people, you don't even have to run here. All you have to do is walk up those hills. So it's whatever it takes to get your heart rate up and your breathing increased. When I started to do this, because reading the book, it's such an inspiration to read it. He says, when you start implementing this, we're not going to be able to hold you down because of what it's going to do for your body. So I couldn't wait to try it. Now, when I got to 22nd, I'm running up a hill. My body's actually saying to me, I think that'll do. I get to 25 seconds, my body says, this is getting ridiculous. I get to 30 seconds and if I don't count, I don't get that far because I'll listen to the body that says, yeah, that'll do. In the Framingham Heart Study, I've quoted this study a couple of times, 30,000 people, little town over many years. They found that by the age of 50, 40% or most people had lost 40% of their lung capacity. Why is that? Because people never do what you experience when you get to the end of your 30 seconds. Those lungs are just stretched wide open. Those little bronchioles right at the end are being forced to start working. High chest breathers can find that the bottom half of their lungs can almost go into dormancy. So no wonder by the age of 50, many have lost 40% of their lung capacity. The study showed that by the age of 80, most had lost 60% of their lung capacity. Remember oxygen, the most vital element needed for life? Well, and that's where we get it, through our lungs. Recovery. Your recovery time is your indicator of your fitness. Dr. Al Sears, in his book Pace, he's considered the exercise doctor. His book is a bestseller. What does pace mean? P is progressive. This is progressive. The more you do it, the stronger you will get. I don't know whether this has ever got easy. It's certainly easier than when I first started. But it's the recovery time shortens. So your recovery time is your fitness indicator. So pace is, P is progressive. A is acceleration. You are accelerating. This is no gentle stroll. You're accelerating. So when Michael and I are running up the hill, we don't talk then. He's way ahead of me because his legs are about 4 inches longer than mine. I say to him, you must love running with me. It makes you feel like an Olympic runner. So you are accelerating. And C is cardiopulmonary. So cardio meaning the heart muscle. There's one way to strengthen the heart. There's no other way, and that is exercise. So exercise strengthens the heart. I'm going to give you a story to illustrate. My son Peter, about 10 years ago when he was 25, he was training for a triathlon. So he was running up and down the hills behind Brisbane. That's where he lived at the time. Now he's a tiler, and he was dismantling an old vanity unit that had a big chip off it, huge chip, and it was from about the 50s, you know, those old ceramic ones. He got it out and he didn't realise how slippery it was, and it fell and it hit his ankle. In fact, I think if he hadn't have had a bone there, it might have taken the whole foot off. And the blood hit the roof. And he called out to my son, James, my elder son. James. James said, I'm on the phone, mate. Pete said, I think you'd better come quickly. And I tell you that because it was a few minutes before James got in the room. And when he got in the room, he said this little bathroom, the whole roof and walls were sprayed with this most lovely decoration of blood, little sprinkles. When they went to hospital, bounded up, got to hospital, the nurse kept taking Peter's pulse. It was 50 beats per minute. And she couldn't believe that it was 50 beats per minute. Why was it 50 beats per minute? Because Peter's been running up and down hills. So the stronger the heart gets, the less it has to pump. Because every pump is so powerful. It was so powerful, the blood hit the roof. In fact, if Peter's resting heart rate had been 70, 80 beats per minute, it just would have wouldn't have even hit the ceiling. Well, Peter didn't do the triathlon. He had to fix his foot. In fact, the doctor couldn't believe that he hadn't cut any tendons. He kept getting him to move his big toe. Oh yes, it needed a few layers of stitches, that one. Aren't we glad that we have hospitals and doctors when we have a severe injury? Absolutely. And Peter was so glad that he had an injection of local anaesthetic. You know, we certainly don't quibble emergency medicine. And the doctor couldn't believe that it had missed the main tendons. And I said to Peter, that was your mother's prayers. Every morning she places you in the hand of God. But it's an illustration to show that the more you exercise, the stronger that heart gets. And when it's strong, it doesn't have to beat much because every beat is so strong with the delivery of blood. It is said we only have so many beats per lifetime. So you can see the fitter the person, the longer the life. And I'd like to suggest the better quality of life because of what exercise does to the body. So PACE, progressive acceleration of cardiopulmonary. So there's the lungs. And it was in that book and other books where he quoted the study on the Framingham study. So you can prevent that lung capacity loss by exercising every day. And if you've lost it, you can regain it by the high intensity exercise. So progressive acceleration of cardiopulmonary exertion. You are exerting yourself. There's the PACE. But what I'm ever thankful to Doug McGuff for is he takes you inside the cell. So I'm going to take you inside the cell now. So here's the cell. We've looked at the cell a few times this week. And the glucose goes in. It goes through a 20-step pathway. And the 20-step pathway gives us 2 units of energy. The end result of the 20-step pathway is a chemical form of glucose called pyruvate. The chemical form of glucose called pyruvate is fed into the powerhouse, called the powerhouse because this 8-step pathway delivers to us an impressive 36 units of energy. We looked at the fact that this is an anaerobic pathway. Anaerobic pathway is the 20-step pathway, meaning no oxygen. It produces energy by the process of fermentation, whereas the 8-step pathway is an aerobic pathway because it uses oxygen. We also had a look at the fact that when excess glucose is going in, it's stored like a little bunch of grapes, and they're little bunches of glucose just waiting there. And I'm sure they were used on your morning walk, on my morning exercise this morning, because we only gave you broth last night. And as you start to move that body, the only time this could be interfered with is if you started to walk without drinking water. And we're going to look at water in a minute after the break. It's vital that you drink water. One lady said to me, I won't be able to walk in the morning because I faint. And I said, well, do you have water? She said, no, I don't like water. Well, you got to have water. The body needs its water. But when you drink that water in the morning and then go on your walk and your body is starting to to work, it needs more fuel. Those little molecules of glucose are plucked and through the pathway, plucked and through the pathway. It's a wonderful process. We also looked at the fact that on a very high carbohydrate diet, the excess glucose, when the glycogen stores are full, is stored as fat. So I want to show you how this high intensity exercise program, I want to show you how it affects the cell and how it can actually reverse that whole process that we looked at earlier. So I need to tell you a few things as I give the illustration. So what I didn't tell you the other day is that this 8-step pathway is very slow. The 20-step pathway is very fast. And as we're sitting, standing here at the moment, they're feeding into each other quite nicely. But when you start running for your life, cycling for your life, rebounding for your life, swimming as fast as you can, both pathways speed up. The 20-step speeds up, the 8-step speeds up, but there's a rate-setting enzyme in there that will always keep this one faster and this one slower. So what happens now is more pyruvate is being made than can be fed into the 8-step. And so the body stores that excess pyruvate as lactic acid. You've heard of lactic acid? We've all heard of lactic acid. Too much building up, that can hurt, can't it? We've felt that. So I think one of the most amazing things about this high intensity interval training is what happens when you're in recovery. And don't we love recovery? Mm-hmm. When you're in recovery time, getting your breath back, letting your body settle down a bit, the liver converts that lactic acid back to pyruvate and feeds it into the powerhouse, which means when you're in recovery time, your cells are burning just as much fuel as when you're running for your life. Isn't that good news? That's good news, but there's other good news too, and that is it's mopping up your lactic acid. So it doesn't have an opportunity to build up in your tissues. Yesterday we had a look at how disease thrives in an acid environment. So this form of exercise is the best form of exercise for many reasons. And one of the reasons it gives the athletes an edge, one of the reasons it's going to give you an edge on your day, physically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, one of the reasons it does that is because not so much, well, definitely what's happening in high intensity, but what's also happening in recovery time. I'm very thankful to Doug McGuff and the scientists that went inside the cell to find out, where's our why? To find out why it is such a powerful form of exercise. Not only is it a powerful form of exercise, but it doesn't take long. You do the maths on that. I'm going to be generous here. What's this? This is no more than 15 minutes in a day. We have 24 hours in a day. So no one's got any excuse. So let's continue. So you're getting to the end of your first 30 seconds. You're plucking your glycogen stores. You're getting to the end of your second set of 30 seconds high intensity. Your glycogen stores are being depleted, but we need more fuel. And so what the body does now, it causes a release of the human growth hormone. The human growth hormone is very active when we're growing. But when we stop growing, I stopped growing at 16, that probably doesn't surprise you. My son William grew 2 inches from 19 to 22. Boys usually grow a bit longer. It goes into retirement. But when you do the high intensity exercise, it's pulled out of retirement. Let me show you what it does. What the human growth hormone does is it causes a release of hormone-sensitive lipase. Hormone-sensitive lipase is an enzyme that breaks down fat cells. Yesterday we looked at sublingual lipase. Remember that enzyme that breaks down the short chain and medium chain fatty acids in the saturated fats? We looked at pancreatic lipase that breaks down the long chain fatty acids. We're looking at another lipase now, and that is hormone sensitive lipase that's released to break down your fuel stores. Isn't that what fat is? It's the most amazing fuel depot in the human body. But how many people are carrying a lot of weight? They're actually starving in the land of plenty. They can't access their fuel supplies. They're always tied. How do we access it? This is how we access it, causing a release of the human growth hormone. So hormone-sensitive lipase is activated, and hormone-sensitive lipase, as it is activated, it switches over to burning fat. It becomes a fat burner. So one of the reasons why when the human growth hormone's released, the body starts burning fat as fuel is because of something we looked at yesterday. Remember glucose? Glucose burns in the body at 4 calories per gram. Remember fat? Fat burns in the body as 9 calories per gram. Now you'll find that information in every weight loss book in psychedelic colours as to the reason why if you want to lose weight you shouldn't eat fat. But they don't understand what a calorie is. You know what a calorie is? It's a unit of energy. So if you want a high energy food, what do you eat? Fat. You see, it's a misconception. No wonder the body starts burning fat as fuel, because fat's going to give more than twice the units of energy that glucose will give, because this person's running for their life. We need a potent fuel here. The human growth hormone also increases the body's ability to process protein. We've looked at the importance of protein this week, the importance of eating sufficient protein. We've looked at the importance of not drinking with the meals, or we'll water down our hydrochloric acid, and then it won't be able to break down our protein effectively. And now we're looking at another aspect. The high intensity interval training causes a release of the human growth hormone, which increases the body's ability to utilise protein. The human growth hormone also increases the circulation of the blood to the skin. Now the effect of this is it slows down aging. No wonder the movie stars pay $1,000 a week for this human growth hormone, because their profession is dependent on them looking good, and you can see this helps you look good. Well, I'm offering it to you cut price today. 15 minutes high intensity interval training a day will cause a release of that human growth hormone, and that human growth hormone will remain active for 24 hours. People ask me, how often do you exercise? I say daily. Daily. Daily, because I want that human growth hormone. So when people say, Barbara, what do you put on your skin? What's your moisturiser? I say, nothing. Nothing. What I do, I spend my money on good quality nuts and seeds and avocados and olive oils, your lovely cold pressed. And I exercise every morning. How could I miss out on my daily human growth hormone? So if it's a gale outside, if it's snowing outside, then I go to the rebounder. I do my push-ups. Do you do push-ups, ladies? I do my stretches, and I know the twins have shown you some amazing stretches. They're very good on those stretches. I hurt my back the other day, lifted something too heavy, and so Erin got up on the table. She's up on the table and she's pulling my legs this way and that way. Whoa. She said, am I doing too hard? I said, I'm sorry, but I'll never say you're doing it too hard. I'll just breathe. 1, 2. So stretches are great. So no matter what the weather, move that body every day. Get it into a movement, because you will reap the benefits all through the day when you do that little nugget every single morning. I had a couple do our program. She was, young couple, she was 79, he was 82. And they swim for 2 kilometres in the sea at Coffs Harbour, which is a coastal town in Australia. And it's about the same temperature as this. They don't get snow. We only get snow way down the bottom and even only on the mountaintops. So they swim for 2 kilometres every morning. I said, no wonder you guys look good. They hardly had a line on their face. They were little, obviously, you can have a few lines, but I was amazed at their skin. They were with us for 2 weeks. When they first came, they stopped the cholesterol-lowering meds, they stopped the blood thinner because they were drinking more water. Midweek, they decided to stop their blood pressure med as well, and because their blood sugars were coming right down, stopped that medication. I tell you, the second week they just came alive. They went home younger than they came. But I'd like to show you one of the most powerful, well, it is acknowledged to be the most powerful form of exercise there is. And everyone can do this one, and it's called rebounding. Now, why is the rebounder, or the little mini trampoline, such a powerful form of exercise? Strength comes from one activity and one activity alone, and that is defying gravity. Isn't that what you're doing on the push-ups? You're defying gravity. Have a look at a baby. I've had 6 babies. And I know within a couple of days, what are they trying to do? Put their heads up. They're trying to put their head up. In fact, you have to be careful because they put their head up and then they might bang it on your collarbone. And then it's not long when you put them on the floor, they start to roll. Then they start to get up on their hands and knees. And then it's not long after that, they're trying to pull themselves up. They're constantly defying gravity, aren't they? It is gravity that causes strength. And then you put them in the little cot and they start jumping, jumping in the cot. I've come to the conclusion that people age because they stop jumping. What's the old saying? We should jump for joy. So why is the rebounder so powerful? Well, three forces come together with the rebounding, because I always want to know why. 3 forces come together. One force is defying gravity. So defying gravity is one of the forces. There's another force that comes to play, and that is acceleration. So when you're leaping off the mat up into the air, you're accelerating. And then just as you get to the top of your jump, you experience deceleration. So acceleration and deceleration. You know acceleration when you're in the plane. I think my favourite time in the plane is when they take off. We go so fast and watch that land go away from you. So there's your acceleration. Deceleration is when you've landed and they put the brakes on and you're flattened against the seat. Einstein says that these 3 forces have the same effect on the body. There is not a cell in the body that is not affected by these 3 forces, and that's what makes it such a powerful form of exercise, because constantly as you're jumping like this, the cells they're being challenged, but challenging the cells strengthens the cells. So let me show you what the rebounder also does. Here's your lymphatic system. Your lymphatic system is your body's vacuum cleaner. And your lymphatic system has little gates like this all along. Now your blood capillary system looks very similar, but it doesn't have those little gates. And your blood capillary system has muscles either side of it. So when your heart pumps, pumping the blood along the capillaries, those muscles are affected, and the pumping happens all the way through the system. We can feel a pulse, can't we? We can feel a pulse in our groin, we can feel a pulse in our, and it's all affected because of the heart. The heart is the pump, and it pumps the blood through the body. Did you know you have a second heart? It's your calf muscle. Do you ever wonder how the blood gets back to the heart? You see, your arterial system is the blood coming away from the heart, and your venous system is the blood coming back to the heart. It is your calf muscles. And I think you'll agree with me, when you've been on the rebounder, those calf muscles, they're constantly working, so your second heart is getting those blood back. That's why rebounding is so effective for varicose veins. You don't get varicose arteries, do you? You get varicose veins. It's that venous system that's affected. And that's why in the plane they tell you to move your foot, don't you? Because when you move your foot, you're moving your calf muscle. And that pump and that heart muscle, they're causing this muscular system around the capillary network to keep moving that blood, because the blood is the life of the flesh. But not so your lymphatic system. Your lymphatic system does not have a muscular system around it, and your lymphatic system doesn't have a pump. And your lymphatic system sweeps away waste from the tissues. Remember, it's the body's vacuum cleaner, and it dumps the waste into the lymph nodes in our neck, in our armpits, in our groin. There are lymphocytes, which is a white blood cell that can deal with the waste, dump it into the blood, and then we sweat out the waste, we urinate out the waste, out our colon comes the waste. That's how the whole process happens. When you wake up in the morning, these little gates are all closed, which means the waste can't get out. Just getting out of bed, moving your arms and legs opens them a little bit. But the activity that opens every single gate in the whole body is the rebounder. So when you're on the rebounder, and let me get on the rebounder and show you. So if you're not used to it, you can just go like that. That's called the health bounce. But as you get better at it, I'm not going to jump really, really high, but you get better at it. You get kids, have you seen what kids will do on this? You know, at first, kids are a little bit out of balance, and you might be a little bit out of balance, but the more you do it, the better your balance will be. You can also start by this, just going like that. But this little one's called the health bounce. But when you start jumping, when you're to the height of your jump, every gate opens. And when you hit the mat again, every gate closes. Isn't that incredible? You only have to rebound for 1 minute in the morning to get that lymphatic system activated for the whole day. And once that lymphatic system is activated, every movement you make, just scratching your head, turning around, it's keeping the movement going. So this, again, is called the health bounce. If you can't do this, you're a little unstable, just find a post to hold on to, or you can get I think there's another rebounder downstairs that has a frame, and you can hold on to that frame. I like not to, because I don't want to become dependent on the frame, but if it's too hard for you, by all means, start with the frame. See, even doing this health bounce, I can feel my second heart, my calf muscles strengthening. Some people say, I'm not going to get on the rebounder because, I'm out of balance. Well, guess how you get into balance? By rebounding. If you're not used to this, at first you might be a little unstable, but the more you do it, you will notice you will get your balance. Your balance is set by the bottom of your feet and by the fine mechanisms in your ear. And so rebounding resets those fine mechanisms in your ear and resets the soles of your feet. Jeffrey's given me permission just to put my shoes on the mat just while I'm giving this lecture, but you're best on bare feet, and your feet spray out like that. But also it strengthens your arch, because when you're bouncing on your toes. There's not a part in the body that is not affected by rebounding. And these three forces that come together, and the effect that it has on the lymphatic system puts it in the class of the most powerful form of exercise there is. And you might say, well, Barbara, most of your work is being done with your legs. What about your upper body? It's all affected, but let me show you how you can strengthen your biceps. So you jump with your palms down. As you jump, that strengthens the bicep muscle. Yes, you can do your triceps too, and that's where you put your palm up and you jump with your palm up, and that strengthens your tricep muscles. And often I will twist as I do it, so I twist like this, and that helps with the spine. And so when my arms get tired out there, then I will do that. But I'll often do 10 biceps, 10 triceps. You can also strengthen your eyesight. How do you strengthen your eyesight? Now, I'm not doing much and I'm fairly fit, but can you see in my breath? So it doesn't seem like you're hardly doing anything, but it has a powerful effect on the body. So how do you strengthen your eyesight? So you can also just do this. Anyone can do that, where you're not even jumping, but you're having an effect. How do you strengthen your eyesight? So right now, looking out that door there, I will focus on that tree. I'll focus my eyes on the leaves of the tree, and so when I'm doing it, the tree is standing still, but the big trees in the background are jumping, and that lamp's jumping, and that lamp's jumping. So what I'll do now, after 10 jumps, I'll focus on that lamp, and I'll keep that lamp still, and the leaves that were still before are now jumping in the peripheral. Can you see what you do? You keep changing your focus, and that strengthens your eyesight. Now, I wear glasses early morning for fine reading. Since I've been doing the changing of the focus, my eyesight has improved. I was just about to go to 250 magnification, but I'm finding that with the changing of the focus on the rebounding, I've been able to keep it just the 2. So it can strengthen your eyesight. The best rebounder is the Bellican. And I think that's how it's spelt, something like that. And you'll notice with the Bellican that we have here, it's not springs, it's rubber. I call this the Rolls Royce because you get a beautiful bounce. You see, with the rebounder, there's no jarring. One lady said, well, can't I just skip? When you skip, every jump that you take, you do get a jarring effect on hips and knees and ankles. That's why if you do run and if you do skip, it must be on the earth, because the earth gives. Cement and tar do not. That's where you get really bad jarring. And notice how children run. Have you noticed how children run? They always run on the ball of their feet. I read a book called Born to Run by Christopher McDougall. He's a runner, and he was getting lower back, pelvic and hamstring problems. So he took 6 months off work and decided to investigate worldwide different runners. He wanted to know why he was suffering with hamstring and lower back. And you'll notice that most joggers are padded to encourage heel striking. Have you noticed that? And yet we should be toe striking. So he went to the history books and he found in 1960 and 1964, Bibi Bikila, an African runner, took home gold, both sets of Olympic Games, and he was a barefoot runner. He also investigated other barefoot runners. You run barefoot on the grass, you will never strike with your heel. And what Christopher McDougall does, he goes into the anatomy of the foot, which is very interesting. You see, the foot's been designed to strike on the toe. When you strike on the toe, it strengthens the arch, and the ball of the foot has a cushioning effect, and the toes spread out to sort of take the fall. But when you strike with your heel, none of that happens. And he discovered that it is heel striking that's causing the hamstring, the pelvic and the lower back problems. Isn't that interesting? And out of that book came the barefoot runner craze. And the barefoot runner is basically runners that have a really thin sole. So I have my barefoot runners here. So I'll show you. When I buy, sorry, I've been running in the dirt this morning. When I buy a runner, I always go like that in the shop. That's what I want. And that barefoot runner allows me to run on my toes. When I started to do the, sorry, bit of dirt from my shoes. When I started to do the barefoot running and got my thin sole, it's no fun if there are big rocks on the road. So I go for the smooth bits, and I also grass as much as possible. My muscles in my legs got really sore. And I thought, this is really strange. Why are my legs sore when I usually exercise every day? And that's when I realised when you toe strike, you use a totally different set of muscles to when you heel strike. Of course, those muscles adapted, and that's the amazing thing about the body, is its ability to adapt and adjust. We want it to adapt and adjust to the good things. Unfortunately, many have adjusted to the bad things. So if you do run, make sure it's toe striking. And your high intensity, it's actually whatever works for you. But the rebounding, again, is, I think every home should have one of the rebounders. You can put it on its side, and you can put it behind the lounge, and if the kids come, you know where all the kids will be is on the rebounding. If you go to Bellicon, their website, you'll see classes where they will show you in a lot more detail than I have. I've just basically touched on it. I just wanted to show you why it is such a powerful form of exercise. And you'll see a whole lot of different moves and things that you can do. But the current figures are saying that 3 minutes 3 times a day is enough. Now that's hardly anything. So how can you put it into there? You can certainly do your 30 seconds high intensity. You saw I didn't seem to hardly do anything, and yet I'm sure you could see that my breath was starting to be catched or caught. Jogging on the rebounder. So I'm just going to move over to the rebounder again and just give you a tiny little illustration of this. You can, now if you do that on the rebounder, jogging on the rebounder, well, you'll definitely get your high intensity. But just leaping high on the rebounder might take a little bit longer to get your heart rate and your breathing up, but you certainly will get that. Dr. Al Sears, in his book Pace, he gives a story of a lady who did 7 seconds high intensity, and she needs 15 minutes to recover. Whoa. Not many people are that unfit. You know what the good news is? That's why P means progressive. If she does that every day, she'll get to 8 seconds and then 12 minutes recovery. Can you see what will happen? That's why it's a good idea to note your recovery time, because as you get fitter, your recovery time will be less and less and less. And that can be of a great encouragement to you. The busier my schedule, the busier my program, the more steps I take to get to bed early so that I can get up and do that high intensity, because I know my day, my performance, my ability to remember, to present, and advice that people are asking me for, that's dependent on me going to bed early, getting up very early and asking for God's wisdom through the day, drinking water, doing that high intensity. You're just about ready for anything. How many people go into the day totally unprepared? No wonder the wheel falls off the wagon the first time a little bit of stress comes the way. I maintain that in a well-slept, well-nourished, well-hydrated, well-exercised body, a body that has been surrendered to the great God of heaven, that body copes with stress. because it comes, doesn't it? It comes every day. But how many people are unprepared? And then the wheel falls off the wagon. And there's often a lot of mopping up to do with that. I know as a mother with so many children, it was imperative that I take those steps so that I was a calmer mother and I had wisdom for each child, because you do get challenged. Whether you're in the home or whether you're in the workforce, you do. So it's important to prepare for your day. So we have to prepare for tomorrow today. We prepare by having breakfast like a king, lunch like a queen, tea or supper, you call it, like a pauper. Then we can go to bed early, and then you can get up early and do what I just explained, what must be done to prepare for the day. Who would go to battle without any armour on? Is the day a battle? Well, I think we'll all agree that, challenges come through the day. So it's important to be prepared. We're going to have a break now, and after the break we're going to come back and look at the importance of salt and water.